Hello, this is Miss Browning. I wanted to make a quick video introducing the acceleration tracking organizers. This is the first part of your culminating activity. I'm giving it to you now in case you'd like to begin your course text early. You should be starting reading it by the start of next week. Please see the instructions in the newsfeed about how to access the novel. Make sure that you have it ready to go next week. So, the tracking organizer is essentially a Word document where I've put together some charts that I'd like you to complete as you read the text. Any writing must be your own thoughts and in your own words unless you are quoting from the text. You'll find there's not a lot of resources about this novel on the internet, which is great because I want you to be thinking for yourself. You'll notice in the charts that I have completed some examples for you. They're not from this book, they're just meant to show you the formatting. So they don't count towards the total number of entries required for that chart, but please use them as a model. Now, because our text is a digital text, it depends what device you're reading it on. So if you're reading it on a cell phone, your page numbers would be different than someone reading it on a laptop or reading it on an iPad. So for that reason, instead of using proper MLA format where you would record the page number, I'm going to ask that when you do a quote, you record the chapter number. That way I can still track it down and double check your quotations, but we can't use page numbers. So the next thing is to make sure that you're doing the charts when it indicates on this document. So you'll see this chart here says before reading. So essentially you're going to get the text, you're going to take a look at it without actually reading it, and then you're going to fill in the points here. So for example, the title of the text on the back cover, the picture on the cover of the book. So you might not be able to see the back cover, that's fine. You just write NA, not applicable. So you'll see that there's two columns. There's details in point form. So you're using bullet points here to just put brief things about it. In the purpose and significance section, you're going to just explain why you think that's important. So for example, the title is called Acceleration. That means moving more quickly. The purpose or significance, maybe you think what that might mean the book is about, for example. The text or the picture on the cover, describe it in the details. And then for the purpose or significance, talk about what that might mean the book is about. Okay, the rest of the stuff is pretty straightforward. The number of chapters, any titles, etc. Okay. And now we're to during reading. So now you actually start reading the book. It's really important that you keep detailed notes as a reminder and help you get deeper in the novel. Later, when you have to do an assignment with the novel, it'll be really helpful to have the tracking sheets. So here you're going to be creating a chart about key events. So a key event is something important that happens. So remember, it's an event, something that happens. That can be an activity, that can be a revelation, so a character might realize something. Those all count as key events. They might get a new piece of information. So what you're going to do is record it and then make some predictions. So if you take a look, notice it says that you have to complete your predictions before you continue reading. So you get to a key event, bam, you just got some new information. Write it down under key events in the chapter. So Lenny crushes Curly's hand in their fight is my example. Oh, sorry. So you just briefly describe the event that you're talking about. The next column says predict the outcome. So what do you think might happen? So as a result of the key event, so again in my example, Lenny crushes Curly's hand in a fight. What do you think might happen because of that? So predicted outcome. Well, I think that Curly will seek revenge against Lenny or get him and George fired. Now the actual outcome, what actually does happen, that's when you continue reading. So you've made your prediction. Okay, now you go back to the book, keep reading. So what actually happens in the book? And this might not happen right away, so you might have to come back later on to fill in the outcome of that key event because you might not know until later in the book. And then finally, you have your comments column. So this is your response or your reaction, your thoughts or your feelings. So what do you think about this part? So in my example, I said that Curly's concerned about his reputation, so I don't think that he'll want to let Lenny get away with it. So I predicted that Curly would seek revenge, but then what actually happens is that Curly is forced to lie and say that he hurt his hand in a different way and he doesn't get revenge. So my comments say that I'm surprised that he did that because it's really out of character for him, and I don't think that that will continue. So I don't think that he'll let him get away with it, but of course I don't know yet. So I think you had to do 5 key events. So make sure it's something significant that you'll have enough to write about. So obviously it's not like he says goodbye to his mom. That's not a key event. So think really important things that happen. You'll know because they'll be exciting to you. They'll be important to you as the reader. So this section here is about vocabulary. So that's word choice. So first, you're going to be identifying new words and, a new word and recording the chapter that you found it in. So the idea here is you find a word that's maybe tricky for you to understand or that's significant. So instead of saying, he had a bad day, the day was a disaster. So disaster would be a word. You'd put that on the chart. In brackets, you'd put the chapter that you got it from. Now the next column is before you look it up. So you're not going to look up the word disaster. Instead, you're going to describe it in your own words. And then you're going to look it up because in the last column it says, is this an effective word choice? So by now you need to know for sure what the actual word means in case you were wrong. So you go to that last column after you've looked it up and you explain if you think yes or no, this was an effective word choice. So yes, disaster was a good word because what happened to him was much worse than something bad, and disaster refers to something, out of your control or whatever the definition is. So if you take a look at my example there, I had a reprehensible. So to me that meant something bad or disgusting. Did I think that was an effective choice? Yes, because reprehensible is a much stronger word than bad, so I can tell that what Lenny did was extremely negative. So the part about Lenny is me referring to the actual text. So I'm going back to the novel and I'm giving the reader some context. So that's really important. You can't just write yes because it's a strong word or no because it's a weak word. You need to make sure it makes sense with the actual book. So I think you have 10 examples there. So you're doing 10 words from the whole novel on that chart. And I believe this is the final chart. So this one you're going to be writing about different characters. It's important that you write about some different characters. So it says record any supporting quotes and pieces of evidence along with the corresponding page number, which again, you're doing chapter number, and indicate whether the author has used direct or indirect characterization. As we go through the next unit, you'll find a video that you can watch about direct and indirect characterization to help you understand. So the last column of this chart should be filled out after the rest of the chart is complete. So make sure that you do the characterization lesson before you fill it out. So you must write about 5 characters, or you can choose at least 2 characters and do more than one example. So that would be fine. So for a total of 5 examples, what I'm really looking for is that in the first column, you're identifying a significant adjective to describe the character. And then you have really good evidence in the second column. So under supporting quotes and page numbers, it's going to be a really good quote that shows that that character is, in my example, confused. So I chose Lenny as my first character. The word to describe him is confused. A supporting quote for that is, Lenny's face broke into a delighted smile. Why, sure, George, I remember that, but what'd we do then? So I'm saying that this is an example of indirect characterization. So again, you'll learn more about that as the course goes on. It's indirect because Lenny shows that he is confused by asking a question about something that he and George talk about all the time. He should know the answer, but he doesn't because he never remembers anything. So what I'm explaining is how that quotation shows that he's confused. So Lenny is a confused person. Here's a quotation to show it. Here's how this quotation shows that he is confused. And you have to do 5 examples for that chart. Down here, I just wrote a little bit about adjectives to just remind you what they are. Make sure that you're choosing descriptive words. So not words like nice or good or mean. They're not very good choices. So you're going to be looking for really good choice words. And I will be including a chart for you in the newsfeed as well of adjectives. However, you can just Google character description adjectives, and you will find a huge, huge list to choose from. It's just really important that you understand what the characteristic actually means when you choose it. Okay, I hope that helps you understand this specific tracking organizer. Again, it's part of your culminating, so please make sure it's your very, very best work. You should be working on it the entire time that you're reading the novel. You can always go back and add more information as you find it. So please do that because, as I said, this is a big chunk of your mark. Your culminating is 30%. That will really, really change your course mark if you, for example, did poorly on this chart. So please make sure you're doing your best work. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.